Hey, good afternoon from central London. I have a very, very special person next to me.
Tammy.
Tammy, a dyer.
Yes, exactly.
Who is an art patron, interior designer, creative director and CEO of Hotel Shangrila.
Yes.
Okay, I got that one right.
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, LA.
Yes.
A huge, huge welcome to London.
Thank you. Thank you. Love being here.
Absolutely fantastic. I want to know everything.
Well, I love nature, so I thought, if we're going to do this interview, let's just do it in nature because it makes me happy. Nature fills me.
Absolutely. Right. First of all, tell me about, because what most people would know you more about is really about that you are the CEO and the creative director of Shangrila. What is your history? What is your connection?
Okay, so the Hotel Shangrila was built in 1939. It's a beautiful Art Deco gem. It's got great bones, great architecture. My father bought it in 83, and pretty soon Bruce Weber, the famous photographer, did his career-defining advertisement campaigns there for Calvin Klein. It was shot many times by Mario Testino. Like, all the great and the good have been there. Diane Keaton, Tom Cruise, JFK Jr., Elvis Costello, everyone stayed there. Sean Penn, Madonna. It was a great hotel, but what happened is that by the time the late 90s came along, the hotel hadn't had a proper renovation, and it didn't have a bar, it didn't have a restaurant, it didn't have room service, it didn't have a pool. So in order to keep up with all the amenities, because the 80s was a period of great growth, as you know, economically all over the world, especially in America. And so Santa Monica had a lot of luxury hotels and corporate hotels come in there. And so to keep up with it, I undertook a massive renovation. I was a creative director because, it was very hard in, the 2000s to find beautiful furniture that I felt comfortable, that worked with deco. And that work with the proportions of our hotel. And so I ended up having to design most of it. And we did the same with wallpaper, and we did the same with, everything else. I mean, I even did the design for the whole courtyard and pool area.
Is it something your background as well, or is it just something that was really inspired by the project?
I'm a historian, and I love history, and I love art, and I love architecture, and I've dabbled, done all of that, and so it just felt like it was just something that I may not have had credentials in, but it just felt natural to just do it.
Just really resonated with you.
Yes, it's exactly. And for me, it was really important because I love historical buildings and I love historical hotels. I always think it's so important to preserve historical architecture, but at the same time, you can't turn it into a museum, because while everyone loves to visit a museum, no one wants to spend the night in the museum. But then on the other hand, you see so many beautiful historical hotels that get too modernized and not in a good way. And then you end up like, and while there's nothing wrong with the W, I didn't want to be a W. I didn't want to be another modern, ubiquitous hotel. I wanted it to have the classical feeling and be timeless.
Absolutely, absolutely. So around the time, tell me more about the time of the renovation, or just before you launch yourself into the project. I think it's a fascinating time. 2000
it's 2008. Well, I started getting to the project around 2000. Well, took over from my father in 2004. My dad died in 2006, and 2008 was when the whole renovation happened, and we opened at the tail end of 2009. Had closed at the peak of the economy, and I opened at the depths of the recession. And they're like, oh my God, everyone was talking about me. They're like, oh, this crazy woman, who does she think she is? She's never going to make it. This is such an expensive renovation per key. And, let's watch her fail. And, usually in the hotel industry, it takes 3 to 5 years to start establishing a brand and to start breaking even. And even with the recession on the way it was, I started breaking even in about 3 or 4 years. And
what was the driving force?
I think the most important thing in any project that you do is to have a very clear vision. And I knew what my vision was with this hotel, that I wanted it to be elegant yet sexy, but not sexy in the way that Vegas hotels are, not over the top, but just like understated. I wanted it to be a place where a woman can go to reconcile all her dichotomies. So, as women, when we go away on holiday or work, or especially on holiday, we want a place where the kids can play, but we also want a place where we can be with our lover and enjoy ourselves. We also want a place where we can go shopping around the corner, but that the kids are happy. We also want a place, where you can go on a date with your lover or whatever, or your boyfriend. And so that's what I wanted to create at that hotel, is a place where, as a woman, you could have every aspect of your choices met. So that's why, if you want a hot date, you have the rooftop bar. If you want your kids taken care of, there's the pool and there's the pier across the street. If you want to have a family time, you go to the beach for the holiday, you hang out by the pool. If you want to go shopping, it's right behind you. If you want a good dining experience, we have a really great restaurant, So
I love that idea because it's almost like it's beauty, but it's functional.
exactly. And that's what I like, because I love beautiful things, but I'm very pragmatic. And I think I was very lucky because I looked at everything from the prism of a working woman, because that's who I am. And I think it was a little ahead of its time, because now, thank God, we're at the age where, everyone's talking about women's empowerment, and, we're in the fourth wave of feminism and, all of that. But I think I was just a little bit ahead of the curve. So I really designed this hotel from the viewpoint of a working woman and mother.
When you said about that you had the vision, but I would like to really get down, and that's basically your really entrepreneurial roots, your spirit of when you took on this huge project, this huge, massive renovation. You had the vision, but what was it really that fundamentally was really driving you?
I saw the renovation of the hotel as a metaphor for the rejuvenation and renovation of my family, because the patriarch had passed away. Oh, wow. And I thought, if I can rejuvenate the hotel, I know I can rejuvenate my family. Oh, wow. I'm the youngest of 6 siblings, my family.
That made me goosebumps.
It is kind of a spiritual thing. Wow. It is kind of spiritual, actually. That was my main driving focus, that and like I said, creating a place that would be sexy yet pragmatic for women, and then of course preserving historical architecture. And I was very lucky because after I did that, I received an award from the Santa Monica Conservancy honoring me for great design. And also Time Magazine did a special hotel issue that year, the following year, where they honored 5 hotels all over the world, and I was one of them.
You've been actually featured in Vogue Australia, the New York Times, the Telegraph, and Mentality magazine.
Yes, I have, and also Time Magazine, which was amazing, their hotel issue. So I was very lucky.
Yeah, lucky. No, it's all the hard work that's basically.
And I was also mentioned in Forbes.
And Forbes, absolutely, the Forbes article. You've got that spiritual background of the hotel. So with regards to the entrepreneurial side, the really, really business-minded side, how did you kind of really manage to stay?
Family. I grew up in a business family. My father was a visionary, and those values of hard work and, being frugal, but at the same time being generous with others. And that was my father's mentality, and my mother's as well.
What would your advice be to entrepreneurs, either startup entrepreneurs or anyone who is kind of facing...
Any business that you're going to start is going to be successful if you're providing solutions. You need to provide a solution. It's that simple. If you're providing a solution, you're going to be useful. If you're useful, you're going to do well.
I can see that, your horizon is like the kind of the businesses and seeing that solution possibilities and incorporating it into your life.
Exactly.
You are an amazingly creative person.
Thank you.
And a wonderful and very, very successful businesswoman indeed. But you're on the other side, you are a mother as well.
Yes.
and a daughter.
Yes.
And there is quite a lot of things to juggle around.
Well, as we were talking earlier, I think the older you get, the more it's important to live in balance. When you're younger, you can pull all-nighters and you can still look good and your health is not going to suffer. But as you get older, I feel like the more in balance you are, the better you will age and the more longevity you will have and the better your health will be and the more creative you will be and the more successful you'll be. And by balance, I mean, I think it's really important that everyone have a spiritual practice, whether it's meditation or whether it's yoga or whether it's prayers. I think it's really important to have a spiritual practice. I think it's really important to have a physical practice. If you go to the gym, great. If you can't go to the gym, but even if you go swimming or if you go for a walk every day, I think it's really important to have that. I think it's important to have great, healthy personal relationships. And by personal relationships, I mean, good friends or family, because friends are the family you choose, right? So if you don't have good family relationships, then don't delve on those. Make good relationships that are solid, that feed you emotionally in your friendships. A good romantic relationship that actually feeds you, that doesn't drain you, that makes you a better person. Because when you're happier and you're better, you can give better back to other people. And then I think it's really important to, have a good creative practice, whether it's in your business or whether it's just your hobby or your art, something that makes you feel passionate and creative. And it's good to have an intellectual practice, whether it's reading or writing or, talking intellectually with friends. But those are the things that really balance your life. And the more in balance and harmony you can live, and that, I think, is the hardest challenge in our lives as we get older, because everything else you can make, money you can make. One thing you cannot make is time. Time is finite. And I think that's the hardest part, is that balance and creating time for all the things that feed you.
There are quite a few things that you are juggling as well.
Exactly.
Tell me more about it. I want to know everything.
Well, we have, our family it's a real estate family. So we have invested in commercial industrial real estate, mostly in Southern California. So there's that portfolio. And then there's the philanthropic part of my family's, charitable organization. And then there's the hotel itself. And then, I have small little businesses on the side. Like I've invested in a music publishing company a little bit, and you invest in different things. You've got to keep your eyes and ears open. So there's all that other stuff that's happening. Mm-hmm. And of course, the biggest investment you make, at least for me, is my children's lives. And even though my sons are grown and they're lovely, wonderful human beings, I still want to make the time to connect with them and to guide them. Because what's the point of becoming older and wiser if you can't pass your wisdom and your guidance down to your own children, right?
What would you say that was the biggest kind of life lesson? What was it that really kind of had a major impact, or what that you got out of?
I think the big life lesson spiritually that I got out of the renovation was learning boundaries. Not allowing staff to overstep boundaries, because when they do, it leads to a business getting dysfunctional. Not allowing, people to take advantage of you. Not allowing people to get away with lying to you, even though it's a small lie, because once a person lies to you about small things, they lie to you about bigger things, So it's just all these boundaries that I learned. Well, you can't change the world. And so the only thing you can do is change yourself. And when you change yourself, then the world around you has to conform to the new you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You went through a kind of personal transformation, a really, really deep transformation. Would you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, I was married to a man, and he's a nice man, but the marriage wasn't fulfilling in a lot of ways for either of us. But we have 3 lovely children, and I think things happened where I started working full time, and then, I think it gave me the strength to talk about what wasn't working in our marriage, and then getting separated was very liberating, and discovering what I needed, and dating. And I'm writing a book on dating also, by the way. I didn't know if I told you that. It's halfway done. But I think one of the most important things about dating is that dating is nothing if it's not a process of self-discovery. Because if you're dating properly, you're discovering yourself and what it is that makes you click, and what is it that makes you, what rocks your world and what you want. And if dating's not doing that, then you're not dating properly, or you have, what I'm saying? And if you're dating the right partner, you grow from it. What happens is that when I unleashed myself for my marriage, it was I unleashed myself creatively. I really feel like my creative juices started flowing. I could do exactly what I wanted in my bedroom. I could do exactly what I want. And it was an explosion of color and vibrancy and creativity. And, it was so much fun. And the way I dressed
Guys
changed.
on the other side, if you were here, you would feel like she's vibrating. You've got a very, very special relationship with fashion.
Oh.
Tell us more about it. You want to hear this?
For me, I love fashion because I love style. And so many of my friends are fashion designers. And so I love coming for London Fashion Week. It really makes me happy. And, because I also do Brit Week. And so I've sponsored fashion designers like Zonda Rhodes and Julian McDonald and milliners like Pierce Atkinson, Mish Dulce, and fine artists like Matthew Stone. And, so I just really enjoy the dynamism and vibrancy of London street fashion. and how it because London's the only city in the world where fashion has come from the street up as opposed from the runway down. Paris, Milan, New York, fashion has always traveled from the runway down. But in London, from the 1950s, with the advent of the teddy boys, fashion has always traveled from the street up. So you had the teddy boys, you had the mods, you had the rockers, you had the punks, and it always came from the street. And so London has a special vibrancy about it. And it's so much fun for me to go to the fashion shows of my friends and be a part of it. And then, you know, take from it what I want and have my own style. Because fashion is fashion, but you know what's really lasting is style. Is your own personal style.
Yeah, you are yes about the scarves.
I think you saw Sue's wearing one of my scarves the other day.
I want one.
You want one? I'll send it to you. My scarves are very kind of rock and roll, but there's a theme of my scarves for this season. The name of the collection it's Tami Adaya, of course, but the name of the collection is Love is a Drug.
Ah. Where did that come from?
From the Roxy Music song, Love is a Drug, from, you know, way back in the 70s, early 80s. And then also, I love rock and roll, I love Art Deco, I love Art Nouveau, and I love wittiness. So when you see my designs, you'll see that it has all of those elements in those scarves.
Oh, how wonderful. Tell me, when is actually the brand coming out?
Oh, the brand, the prototypes are done, so I'm going to be sending you a prototype, but it should be out in a couple of months.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Where are you actually launching?
I haven't figured that part out yet, but I have somebody who's really interested in liberty. Love is a Drug is me. That was I came up with that. That's what I want to do. And then one of the designs is inspired by the Jimi Hendrix Experience, the album cover. Another one is inspired by Guns N' Roses. Another one's inspired by the pill-popping culture that we live in today, you know?
Ah. So it's going to be very kind of...
It's witty and it's fun and it's rock and roll. It's good.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm sure you've been interviewed like 6 billion, goodness knows how many times.
Yes.
But it's a question that you so wanted to answer, but no one actually asked you.
Really? I've never thought about that, actually. I've really never thought about that.
What would it be and what's the answer?
What would it be and what's the answer? You are good at this. You are good at that. Oh my God. He's moving this way. Shall we go that way so we're more in front of the camera? Never really been asked about the question that you really asked me, which I thought was a really brilliant question earlier, which was, what really was your takeaway from your whole experience? And I've never really talked about boundaries. And I've never really talked about, you know, after the separation, the creativity exploded. And I've never really talked about, a lot of the questions that you ask me. You have to be open to the world and absorb what's happening and read and write and express yourself. And I think that's the best part of getting older, you know? And the things do come easier too because you know yourself and you can read people better.
Few bits and pieces, interesting bits and pieces as well. So the website is right below. There's going to be links to the website and links to social media on Facebook, on Twitter. So you just cannot miss it. Honestly, you cannot miss it.
It is such a joy to have done this with you in such a beautiful setting. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Thank you so much for your time, Tami.
Oh, I loved it so much. I had the best time.
And,
I can't wait to see it.